Hi guys, I am back with a new video and today I'm going to be teaching you how to hand knit. So again, you won't need any needles for this project. All you're going to need is yarn, preferably super bulky to jumbo sized yarn, and your hands, and that's it. So we'll get right into exactly what I'm going to be using. I'm going to use, again, this is my all-time favorite yarn for chunky knitting. This is Premier Yarns Couture Jazz, and you can find it on premieryarns.com. I will have all of the information as far as how many skeins of yarn I use for this blanket pattern in the description box below. Just click the link that heads to my blog, simplymaggie.com, and I'll have all of the pattern information there. The first thing you're going to want to do is make a slip knot. So to make a slip knot, you're going to drape the yarn over your hand, pinch the two sides together, twist it away from you, and grab the working yarn and pull it through that loop there. And this makes your first stitch, and you're going to go ahead and start casting on your stitches. So I'm going to do 18 stitches for this blanket. So to cast on your stitches, you're just going to place your fingers into this loop here and pull the working yarn, which is the yarn that's attached to the skein that you're using. Pull it through just like that. So that's your second stitch. You're going to do that again. Insert your fingers and grab the yarn and pull it through to make your third stitch. And you want to try to keep these stitches all the same size. And then again, pull the yarn through. That creates another stitch. And you're going to just keep doing this until you have a total of 18 stitches, or however many you'd like. This is going to make the width of your blanket. So I'm going to do 18. You can do however many you want. Just keep that in mind when you're going to purchase your yarn. You're going to want to buy more than what I've used if you cast on more stitches. So I'm going to finish casting on mine, and I'll be back to show you how to knit your rows. So once you've completed casting on all 18 stitches, just tug on it a little bit to stretch it to the correct width. And now we're going to go ahead and begin knitting our rows. So what you're going to do is, I unravel just a little bit of yarn to make it easier as I go. That last stitch that you cast on, just go ahead and put your fingers through that loop and grab the working yarn and pull it through again. So that first stitch of every row is going to create your edge on this side of the blanket. So that's one stitch there. And now you're going to go into this V shape here. So insert your fingers and grab the working yarn and pull up that next stitch. And try to keep them all the same size. So we have our second stitch there. And we're just going to keep doing that. So you see your next V here. You're going to insert your fingers, grab the working yarn, and pull it up to create a new loop. Okay, there's 3. Next one. 4. And once you get the hang of it, you can really move along quickly. I wouldn't say this is as fast as arm knitting, but the great thing about hand knitting, which is what we're doing here, is you can step away from the project anytime that you need to. Okay, that's 6. And I'm going to go ahead and finish up this row. And I just want to add that when I'm pulling up my new stitch or my next stitch, I'm holding this last one down with my hand. That way it doesn't pull on it at all and change the size of it. So for the first stitch on your second row, it's the same thing as the first row. You're just going to insert your fingers into the first stitch, grab the working yarn and pull it through just like you were doing in the first row. And that is your first stitch in your second row, and this here is going to create the other edge or side of your blanket. And then we're just going to move on to the second stitch. So insert your fingers into the next one, grab the working yarn and pull it through to create your second new stitch. And third. And remember to try to keep these all the same size as you go. And the fourth. And it's always helpful just to unravel a little bit of yarn. Next one. And make sure you're not twisting your stitches as you knit all of your rows. And I'm going to go ahead and finish all the stitches in row 2, and then I'll show you how to switch colors in our third row. So now that I've finished my second row, I'm going to go ahead and switch colors, and I'm going to use the color Mist, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it and start my third row. So all you have to do is, and you can tie these together after, but for now I'm just going to insert my fingers into that first stitch there and just pull the new color through and make a new stitch. And I'm just going to do one row of this color Mist. And again, on the second stitch, insert your fingers, grab the new color and pull it through to create your new stitch in that color. So you're just doing the same thing as before, just with your new color. And your fourth stitch. One of the great things about hand knitting is if you ever mess up on a stitch or if it accidentally comes undone, you can just go ahead and easily go back and redo it and fix it. So I finished my third row in the other color that I'm using. I'm just going to do one row in that color, and I'm going to switch back to using the mushroom color. I still have some of my first skein left over from the second row that we did, and it's still attached, and I'm just going to go ahead and leave it attached just like that, and I'm going to bring it up and start using it in my fourth row. So just go ahead, insert your fingers into that Mist color on your third row, pull up the working yarn, which is the yarn that's attached to the skein that you're using, and you're just going to start knitting with that mushroom color. And I should have enough here to complete my fourth row with this color, and then I'll have to attach a new skein, which I will show you how to do. For now, I'm going to continue knitting my fourth row, and then I will come back and show you how to attach the new skein of yarn. Okay, so now that I've completed my fourth row and I had just enough to finish that row, I'm going to go ahead and tie on my next skein of yarn, and in the same color mushroom. So I have my end here of my new skein and the end of my last skein, and we're just going to go ahead and tie a double knot. Then just pull it as tight as you can, And then once you're done with your blanket, you can go back and trim the excess that's hanging off of the sides of the knot, or you can go ahead and do that now if you'd like. And then you're just going to continue knitting. So we're going to go on to our 5th row. Okay, so go ahead and knit your first stitch, insert your fingers into that stitch, pull up the working yarn, and create your new stitch. Second stitch, same thing. Third, and you're just going to continue along your 5th row and knit all of your stitches. I'm going to go ahead and finish my 5th row, and then I'll come back and continue knitting. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to my 6th row, and I'm going to continue knitting with mushrooms. So now I'm going to do the same thing in my 7th row and continue knitting with the mushroom color. So go ahead and grab your working yarn, insert your fingers into the first stitch, and pull the working yarn through, creating a new stitch. And then your second stitch, and you're going to continue doing that along the entire 7th row. So now I'm going to continue knitting with mushroom and start my 8th row. Okay, so I have about 1.5 feet of mushroom yarn left here on the end, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that there and attach the mist yarn in my 9th row. So if you're wondering how many rows I've done of each color, I started off with 2 rows of mushroom, 1 row of mist, and then after the mist yarn I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of mushroom. I have the end here, and I'm just going to insert my fingers into that first stitch in our 9th row, and I'm going to grab the new working yarn of the new color, and I'm just going to pull it through, creating that new stitch. And now we can continue knitting with mist along our entire 9th row. Okay, so I've completed my 9th row with the mist color, and again I'm just going to do the 1 row of the mist, and then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the mushroom color in my 10th row. So I have a new skein here. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I'm just going to leave the mist attached for now, and I'm going to go ahead and attach my mushroom color for the 10th row. So I'm going to insert my fingers into the first stitch here, pull that mushroom color up through to create your new stitch in your 10th row. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue knitting my 10th row with the mushroom yarn. So I've completed my 10th row with the mushroom yarn, and I'm going to go ahead and knit 4 more rows using that same color, and then like I've been doing, I'm then going to switch to the mist and do 1 row of mist, and then I'm going to complete my blanket, and I will show you how to bind off after I've done a few more rows, just for, you know, time's sake for the video. I'm not going to do the full pattern in the video. I'll have that, like I said in the beginning, I'll have that linked on my blog. So I'm just going to go ahead and knit 2 more rows, and then I'll show you how to go ahead and bind off your blanket and complete your project. So what you're going to do to bind off is go ahead and knit 2 stitches. Then you're going to take that second stitch, insert it into the first one, pull the first one over, and now you have just the second stitch that you knit. So now you're going to knit 1, okay, take that last stitch, or that second stitch that you knit in this row, and you're going to insert that third one into that one. And now you have that 1 stitch left. And as you can see here, it's ending your blanket. Just going to pull this down for you. So knit 1 more. So you have the 2 stitches. You're going to insert this one into the previous one and pull that one up. And you want to keep this relatively loose, that way it's the same width as the beginning of your blanket. If you do it too tight, it'll end up making your blanket smaller on one end, and you don't want that. So now you're going to knit 1 more and bind one off by inserting that one you just knit into the previous stitch. Okay, and just continue doing that along the edge of your blanket. So you want to knit 1 and bind one off. And again, keep it a little bit loose, so you might have to just pull on it a little bit every now and then, pulling up a little bit more of the working yarn. Okay, so I have 2 stitches left. So again, knit 1, bind one off, and the last one, knit it, bind it off, and now you have this 1 remaining stitch here. Don't mind those are just the ends of the new attached skein. So you have this 1 last loop, and all you're going to do is pull your strand through, and you would pull the strand all the way through and then just tighten it as much as you can. And then you're going to go ahead and weave in this end, and then you can go back to your cast on edge and also weave in that end as well. And then your last step, if you didn't already do it, was to, let's see, where you had attached different colors, you would go ahead and tie them together with a double knot. And then all you would have to do is go back through and trim those. You want to tighten them as much as you can, trim them up so that they look nice, and that's it. Your blanket is complete. Now, like I said earlier, I have the full written pattern on my blog, so if you head to simplymaggie.com, I have the link down below in the description box, so you can head there, get the pattern and all of the materials that you'll need. I'll have a link to where you can purchase the yarn. And that's it, guys. It's that easy. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I will see you in my next video.